Welcome back, everyone. This is a rainy day here in Wisconsin, so forgive the sounds in the background. But I wanted to share something with you that I will not be posting. It'll be available on YouTube, but I won't be sharing it outside that on social media. And I wanted you guys to be the first to receive it in an email, just something that's a little bit more behind the scenes than anything else I've shared about my most recent book. I know a lot of you have followed the launch of Sheaves and Stars, which is my novel about Joseph in Genesis. And some of you may know a little bit of the background on that. There's several videos around the launch that talk a little bit in pieces here and there about how this story has been a lifelong journey for me. It's been a story that got on the inside of me from a very young age, and I sort of grew into the desire to write about it and learn from it and sort of hopefully become the message of the story, which is what we all should seek to do with the Bible is, where can this work in my life? What can I learn from this? And getting on the inside of those stories really helps with that. But what many of you may not know is that I actually wrote two different versions of this book, and what was published was a matured version of the original manuscript that I had years ago as a child, written on paper with a pencil. And but there was another version that I wrote in October of 2022 called a split time version. Now, split time fiction is just basically, and it could be nonfiction as well, but split time is just basically where you have one chapter that's in, say, present day. And then you go to another chapter that is in the character's childhood. And then you go back and forth from present to childhood, or sometimes even different eras, different like the 1900s and the 1600s or something like that. And I had always thought that version, or I had often thought that version could work really well for the story of Joseph, because there's so much ground to cover and there's so much that's important from his childhood and his adulthood. But before we go any further, why does this even matter? Why would I be even telling you this? Why does it matter that I wrote two versions? Well, it's really more than just, the behind the scenes. I hope that when I share things like this, that God would touch your hearts with the stories I share, because he really taught me a lot through this journey. And what he taught me, it can be found in Corinthians. It's actually 2 Corinthians. It's chapter 8 through 9, and it's talking about being a cheerful giver, actually. And some of the verses, I'll just read a few of them that stood out to me. They gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. Paul is talking here, the Apostle Paul is talking about the church. He said, as you excel in everything, see that you excel in this act of grace also. Later, he says, this benefits you who a year ago started not only to do this work, but also to desire to do it. So now finish doing it as well, so that your readiness in desiring it may be matched by your completing it out of what you have. For if the readiness is there, it's acceptable according to what a person has, not according to what he does not have. And then later he says, each one must give as he has made up his mind, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. And so this is 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. And God spoke to me through that. Basically, a year ago, literally, I had started to really get this book ready for publication. And God was reminding me the readiness goes along with what you have, not according to what you don't have. Don't keep worrying about what others are doing. Give what you have and be faithful with that. And here's how it applies. I've been holding on to the dream of this book and stewarding it for so many years. And I've gone back and forth so many times about what it should look like. And basically in 2022, I had laid the timing in God's hands, because self-publishing is very expensive. And God showed me, yes, it is time to release the book, and he provided a way to do it. But I was still so uncertain about it, A, because I'd been holding on to it for so long, and B, because there was a lot of pressure. This was my favorite story, and I felt that it had to be unique. And even though God had made it clear that this was the time to do it, for some reason, it had been years that I had been thinking of doing this and getting it ready. And all of a sudden, this particular year, everyone was coming out with stories about Joseph. And so now I had even more pressure that I have to make my version stand out. I have to make it unique and different. So I was panicked in October of 22. I had so little peace about editing what I had. I was not feeling it. Forgive my computer sounds. And so basically I prayed, and God gave me an amazing lightning bolt experience. Out of nowhere, I just was able to write a brand new book in split time, building off of what I had. And I was so caught up in it and amazed with it. And I thought, this is going to work. But the longer I worked with it, the more issues I ran into. And I started to wonder, maybe God gave me this in order to show me that I could do it. I could satisfy my curiosity about the other version, but that I actually didn't need to rewrite it, that what I originally had represented my heart and vision more accurately. He showed me, you could write the other version, but is that the book that needs to be published? And this is an important question in these projects. Just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's the one to share with the world. So in prayer, again, I went back to prayer, and God took me through the pros and cons of both versions and what each one represented. He reminded me that this isn't just about publishing, it's the culmination and continuation of a journey, and I still needed to steward every step. He took me back to what really mattered. He said, don't release something just to impress people with what you can do. What matters is the long journey you've been on and what you've learned that you want to give away. Get back to the wonder of all that and find out which version communicates that the best. What version communicates what's in your heart, not under compulsion. The split time version was fun to write, but it was under a lot of pressure from myself wanting to stand out. God just said the key question is, what do you want to give away from what I've taught you? Don't try to write what the world wants, but what has life in it. The one that's going to bother you the most if you don't release it, because it contains all the depth of the journey you've taken. And that's become a life lesson of sorts. It's beyond, the versions of this story. Stop trying to contrive some image, whatever you're working on. Pour out a sacrifice of praise that comes through your creativity. God is directing your heart if you are submitted to him, and he will make something beautiful out of it. So I hope that this encourages you, that whatever you are working on, wherever you are stuck or just not feeling it and feeling the pressure to be more flashy, to be different and unique and profound, get with God and let him take you back to what is really on your heart, what he has given you to do, because that's really what matters. Be a cheerful giver of what you've been given, and that will change the world. Bless you. I'll see you next time.